these politicians walking around who are making these decisions in their fancy suits, their fancy dresses, the latest cologne, their shiny shoes, being driven around in limos, etc., talking, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of nonsense when they go to represent black people or people in their particular countries. It's disgusting and it needs to stop. And
Yeah.
I think we need to usher in an age that reflects an age of people that reflects the people that these people are serving, because it's clear once they get into power, that's it. That's it. Once they get into power, that's it. We've made it, and now it's just time to look after ourselves and do nothing for the people of the country that we're supposed to serve.
Yeah, so I just had some technical difficulties. We finally went on live like right now, so
Okay.
but it's fine. I mean, we already just started, but I'm gonna backtrack and just reintroduce. So I am Adam Hudson. I am the United States-based country representative for Global Pan-Africanism Network, so GPAN. I am also the co-host of a Pan-African leftist podcast called Real Sankara Hours. Look us up on soundcloud.com/Real Sankara Hours. And why don't we, okay, so there's 5 of us here so far. Wait, let me add you real. Okay, so why don't we go around introductions again, because yeah, we're live. So I'm gonna go clockwise. So Junior, Lillian, then Ezin, and we'll go around. So
yeah, I'm Junior Paul, and I started a group on a very popular social network, and it's called Marla, M.A.L.A, and Marla stands for Make African Leaders Accountable. Started about 6 months ago and had a very, very strong following, over that short amount of time. So.
Okay, and yeah, so as we were going live, so Junior was talking about the group Make African Leaders Accountable, Mala, and so the subject of our talk is gonna be about Mala, but mostly about the African Union, its role, and this open letter you guys came up with to push the African Union in not just a more progressive direction, but a direction that is needed for all people of African descent throughout the world, both in the diaspora and on the continent. So, okay, so Lily, your turn. So, yeah, who you are,
Yeah.
where you're based, all that.
Okay, so my name is Lillian. I'm the UK country representative of GPAN, but I'm also part of Marla, and I am part of the diaspora group. Yes. So.
Okay, so Ezzy, why don't you go?
Yes, greetings, all Africans all over the world. This is your brother in Africa. I am Eze Chibedomozo, leader of the One Africa Family Organization, OAF. I'm the author of The Wisdom and the Power of African Unity, and I'm also the author of 222 Questions and Answers about African Progress. So we're here to discuss how the role the African Union has been playing. So next
Okay,
person.
yeah, next person, Ismaila Fati.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Ismaila Fati from the Gambia, a third-year political science student at the University of the Gambia, and also a Pan-Africanist. So basically, I've been engaged in so many Pan-Africanist activities throughout, advocating for Africa's unification, a way forward to Africa's development and unity. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, so okay, so so like I said, I'm based in the US, African American, descendant of the transatlantic slave trade. And I wanted to mention that because it's definitely relevant for what we're talking about right now. So yeah, so Junior, you pretty much just, do you want to like recap a little bit, like the shorter about Mala, and then Lily, you can explain the African Union for us.
Yeah, so as mentioned before, Marla, Make African Leaders Accountable, was started about 6 months ago, and our main aim was to highlight the fact that there are decisions, unfortunately, and I did say in capital letters before, unfortunately there are decisions being made on behalf of African people by African leaders who are gaining themselves, who are making decisions about things for their particular countries without consulting the people. Just and I did mention, I'm not sure if this was broadcast, but I mentioned the prime example, the latest example, which was the current Zimbabwean president, who decided to award I can't be. I'll
It
be
was
clear. They wouldn't.
yeah, it was it was $3.5 billion in reparations for the white colonial settlers from Zimbabwe.
That's right. Yes. And basically, my point was that they should not be paid anything because they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. And
Right.
it's one of those age-old sayings that only black people, only black African people or leaders can do such things. I wouldn't, no one else wants to compensate black people. Nobody wants to compensate black people. Yet we have a leader and other leaders who are doing, horrific things like that. These people shouldn't have been there. The land that they took, they stole. They didn't take it by peaceful means. It's done through murder, small-scale genocide. But I think I just use the word genocide. Through underhanded means, and the people who had their lands taken away from them, they haven't been. And by the looks of things, unless someone like me gets into power, they won't be compensated for it either. So Marla, we would like to see what we would like to see is a one Africa without borders. And I know Lily's going to go on to talk about this, but one Africa without borders and have one president and maybe some vice presidents of Africa. And I'd quite wholeheartedly put forward, the likes of Paul Kagame and Arikana. I can't remember her surname.
I think it's Chiambari Kwayo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one other I was thinking of as well that I mentioned before to be president, and that is PLO Lumumba. And these are people who are just so for Africa, for Africans, for Africa, who highlight, the injustices that have gone on and are still continuing. The African leaders who are unwilling, because they can do it, but unwilling to break themselves away from their colonial masters. These are old ways of thinking, and they've got to stop, and it's got to change, because we need to usher in as a whole in Africa, the country of Africa, leaders who will, get into office and say, look, this is what we need for the people, not for ourselves, not for me, so that's where we want to go. That's where we want to go with Marla. We need to make African leaders, we need to get people in power who will represent the people and not themselves.
Okay, I think Yohani just stepped in. Okay, there's Yohani. Hey, Yohani, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, how are you guys doing? Is that
Good.
good morning or good
We're-
afternoon or wherever
We're
you
good.
are?
Well,
Good evening.
it's morning. I'm in California, so it's morning where I'm at. Late morning, getting into
Okay,
afternoon.
yeah. Here we got around the 2:15. Yeah, thank you guys for letting me in. I'm so great to be with you guys. My name is Yohani Paulo Imani in Swahili, John Paul of Faith in English, and Juan Pablo de la Fe en español, Jean Paul de la Foi en français. All those languages I just say, I speak them as well. And I'm Africanist. I live in Washington D.C. now. That's where I actually studied, and I have hope in this generation that we're going to be able to unite. And to unite Africa, I mean, and when I say Africa all the time, I mean Black people in general. Regardless where you are and where you live and what last name you hold or what is your first name or your mother tongue. I think that's all I can say is very much for now, and maybe I will pick on later on as we continue.
Okay, perfect. So, Lily, why don't you talk about the African Union, like the origins of it and its supposed responsibilities? But we're definitely going to get into like what the AU has not been doing. But just explain for people who don't know what the AU is. Like, what is it?
Yeah. Do you have the slide?
Oh, yeah. Let me pop up.
So because I wanted to start by showing what you actually see when you go to the AU website. I wanted to share that with you because it already upset my spirit. So I started and it already upset my spirit. And I thought I'm going to share that with you.
Okay, so it should be popping up. Okay.
Yeah, if you
so-
just go, Yeah, to the second slide, please. Okay.
Mhm.
Right. So you go to the website. You can do that, and that's what you see. And I found that so telling of what the AU is and what it actually shouldn't be. So we have two hands, okay, two hands of an African woman or a man, in a subservient position, begging for money. And if you can see the coins, these are not, I don't know, it's not naira, it's not rand, it's not CDs, these are euros. Okay, so how? And I thought it was such a telling image, and it's there. It's not something I've made up. It's actually, if you go to the website, au.int, you will see this picture. And how can the African Union be an
Begging.
institution that is supposed to be independent and support the independence of African states, and how that is the first image. So I thought it was quite telling, and I wanted to share that with you. So I don't really want to talk so much about, what the African Union is and so on and so forth, because I'd rather have a debate about it and see.
Mhm.
Everybody could
Mhm.
just go on the website and get the information. But initially, the African Union was founded in 1963 by 1963, and we had founding fathers like Kwame Nkrumah and Mugabe, and and it wasn't called the African Union. It was the Organization of African Unity. Okay, and so in 1963, so 57 years ago, it was founded. Now, obviously, we have since 2002, it's now called the African Union.
Hold
Uh,
on there, sister.
Sorry.
You hold on for a second. You are skipping a very very important point there.
Yeah, go ahead, Johanny.
Yeah, the African Union was formed from the side. It was the Casablanca and Monrovia group.
Right.
So
Yes. Yeah. So, do you
yeah,
want to explain those two groups? Because I think that's really important. Like what each of
yeah,
them.
it is
Yeah.
very very important to understand those. Do you wanna go ahead and explain them, or you want me to do that?
Uh,
I mean,
I Lily, do you want to explain the Monrovian
uh,
Casablanca group, or
like,
I, c- I can
Johan,
I
you
can
go ahead.
I can give a short.
It's fine.
So
I don't mind.
yeah. So the Monrovia. So from my like, I mean, to kind of boil it down very, very simply, there were like kind of at the time like two factions. There was a Monrovia group, and then there was the Casablanca group. The Monrovia group, I think for if I remember, if it and correct me if I'm wrong, Johanny, but like I think it was uh mostly like African leaders who wanted to maintain the borders that were originally drawn up by the Europeans, whereas the Casablanca group, they were more I think it was countries like Guinea, like Ahmed Sekou Toure, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, and I think Morocco was. I mean, hence the name
Yeah,
Casablanca.
Morocco and Libya.
Right. Yeah, they were
It was the
more.
5 nations.
Yeah, they had. Yeah, their view was more like a internationalist, like cross. Like they were trying to They were trying to transcend the European imposed borders, whereas the Monrovia group was more focused on like maintaining the old border system. But is that a correct assessment of what those groups are?
Is Casablanca, they want Africa to unite right there.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
they did not want to have any small nations to actually be independent. They want whole Africa to be one as United States of Africa, right there in beginning before even those so-called countries in Africa start to be independent.
Mhm.
Whereas the Monrovia, they want the smaller countries to be independent so that they will unite later on. That's how they were saying. They will say that we
Mm.
will unite Africa later on, but now we just want each country to be independent. Which are the winners of the winner? They win because there was too many of them, and then they created the one who did not want to unite Africa. Later on, they created what is called the African Union today. You can go ahead now, sister.
Yeah, go go
Right.
ahead. Yeah.
As I said, I didn't want to go into the whole details, and because what the only thing I wanted to say now is because I wanted to focus on the debate itself. Okay, what the African Union was founded on the principles, and what it's actually not, and then what we're trying to do. Anyway, so the main objectives of the Organization of African Unity in the original point were to rid the continent of the remaining vestiges of colonization and apartheid, okay, to promote unity and solidarity amongst African states, and to coordinate and intensify cooperation for development. And if we look at these points, okay, these points that were that 1963, and we think about what is going on today, the question is, and I think that's where I wanted to start the debate actually, have we, are we in a point where we can say, okay, that has been fulfilled or not? So that's where I wanted to start the debate, because that was the original idea behind it, the Organization of African Unity, and where are we now? And I think I want to, just
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
reiterate.
so why don't we start with Ezzy, then Ismaila and Johanny about like what are your views of the African Union and what it's doing so far? Like, do you think it's living up to the promise it set out?
Are you asking me or you asking?
Ezzy, can I start with Ezzy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. I think there might be a delay, but I heard you.
Yeah, the African Union. I don't know if you can hear me. The African Union is actually the organization that's supposed to bring the African people together, to bring the African leaders together. Yeah, the African Union, there's no other organization that brings African leaders together more than the African Union. But the African Union actually has a fundamental problem. The African Union has a fundamental problem because we have the African Union and we still have poverty in Africa, we still have oppressive leaders, we still have the problems of ethnicism, we still have problems of faulty education system, we still have new colonialists on rampage in Africa. And that is because the African Union has a fundamental problem which can be traced right to the OAU. The OAU was formed 25th of May 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, when the Casablanca group and the Morovia group they came together in Addis Ababa, when the Emperor Haile Selassie brought them together in the Addis Ababa to form the OAU. So the OAU was actually formed based on compromise. It was not actually formed based on the objectives or will of the African people, because if you check it, the organization that we actually came up with, don't know what to call it. You can't call it a nation, you can't call it a confederation. It does not have a name. It's just like a club where African leaders come to talk about what they want. They say that their aim was to rid off leaders of colonization and apartheid system and so on. So in 1963, they came together. So we had the Casablanca group, there are seven nations in the Casablanca group. We had Mali, we had Libya, we had Morocco, we had Ghana, we had Egypt, and we had Libya. Then we have the other groups. The Morovia group had more members. Mostly the Francophone nations were part of the Morovia group, because the Morovia group was formed from the Brazzaville group, which existed before, which comprised mostly of Francophone nations. It later became the Brazzaville, the Morovia group. So when we met in 1963, in May 1963, the Morovia group defeated the Casablanca group because, as they say, majority carries the votes. Majority carries the votes. So the majority were the people of the Morovia group. So these people actually came in and scattered the whole plan that Dr. Nkrumah had. Marcus Garvey dreamed of United States of Africa. These people scattered the whole plan. It was actually the defeat of unionism by nationalism, because the OAU was actually an organization of African nationalists. The name OAU, Organization of African Unity, is a misnomer. It's actually a lie. It's Organization of African Nationalists because what we had were nationalists. We did not have unionists. It was not a unionist organization. the organization actually was an organization that implemented the will of the new colonialists. Because on the day of the formation of the OAU, the colonialists began to launch a campaign against Kwame Nkrumah that he wanted to rule Africa, he wanted to colonize Africa, that he was a bad man. So because of that, they defeated his aim of the United States of Africa. So this is the will of the Europeans was done in the formation of the OAU. Now the OAU actually formed, they took a doctrine, a principle, as they call it, the principle of non-interference. The principle of non-interference says that no African nation should interfere in the affairs of any African nation. Even the OAU was not allowed to interfere in the affair of any African nation. So right from the time, you could find out that the foundation was already bad. So the OAU was formed on this principle of non-interference. Now, why the principle of non-interference was there in the OAU? From the year 1964, the people of Zimbabwe began to fight for their independence in what was known as the Second Chimurenga War. The OAU could not intervene, but the Europeans were there fighting Africans in our own continent. But the OAU was there watching. They could not interfere in an African affair, but the Europeans were calling the shots in an African affair. They were there. Mr. Mandela was locked up in the year 1964. He was sentenced to jail in the year 1964. He was actually arrested in 1962. The OAU could not do anything to free Mandela. Mandela had to spend 27 years in prison until the year 1990. So the OAU was a complete failure. The OAU could not stop the killing of Biafrans in the Biafran war that occurred in 1967 to 1970. The OAU could not do anything during the 1983 Libyan Sudan civil war when the Arabs were killing Africans in Sudan. So the OAU even could not stop the Rwanda genocide, which occurred in the year 1994. So the OAU was, if you ask me, a complete failure. They were boasting that they had given Africa independence. You can see the independence that they gave to us. False independence, fake independence, and independence that was meaningless. Independence that was based on compromise, based on agreeing with the times of the new colonialists. So the OAU was a failure. 9th of September of 1999, a declaration was made from Cite in Libya. It was actually Gaddafi that was championing the cause of transforming the OAU to the AU. So the 9th of September Cite declaration was made that the OAU was going to be upgraded into a better union. Eventually, 9th of July 2002, in Durban, South Africa, the OAU paved this way, and we had the African Union, the AU, 9th of July 2002. After that, the AU changed the principle of non-interference because it's not a principle. They changed it to the principle of non-indifference. The principle of non-indifference says that the African Union was not going to keep quiet and watch genocide occur in Africa. They actually adopted the principle of non-indifference from the United Nations because the United Nations, they were actually angered by what happened in Rwanda. So they adopted the principle of R2P, the responsibility to protect. So the African Union also adopted their own principle, which they termed principle of non-indifference. So the principle of non-indifference, they now had to set up a structure known as the African Peace and Security Architecture in the year 2002. This architecture had part of it were the Peace and Security Council of Africa, the African Continental Early Warning System, the Council of the Wise, the African Union Commission was to supervise also the organization, the Peace Fund, and so on. So all these things were put in place to ensure that the African Union was going to be more successful than the Commission of African Unity, the OAU. But the test came in the year 2003. In the year 2003, the people of Africa were complaining on how the Arabs were treating us in Sudan. The Arab apartheid system, the Arab Janjaweed were killing Africans in Sudan. Thousands were being killed. So in the year 2003, the Sudan Liberation Army and the Justice and Equality Movement launched an attack against the Sudanese government. That was how the Darfur crisis began in the year 2003. When the attack was launched, Africans were being killed by the Sudanese. The Arab people began to kill us more and more. We kept fighting until the year 2004. The African Union intervened. When they intervened, they could not even do anything. They could not even stop the killing of Africans in Sudan. Africans were being killed, being slaughtered until the year 2007. The United Nations and the African Union formed the UNAMID. United Nations and African Union mission in Darfur in the year 2007. This mission could not even stop also the killing of Africans in Darfur. They could mitigate it to an extent, but even as I speak to you today, the killings of Africans in Sudan is still occurring, it's still going on, even as I speak. Over 300,000 Africans were killed in the Darfur crisis. Where was the African Union? Omar Bashir was president of Sudan as of then. The African Union could not suspend the guy, they could not sanction him, they could not remove him. They kept quiet and we're watching Africans being killed. So if you see, it's found that the African Union has not been very, very effective. The United Nations had to, the International Criminal Court indicted Omar Bashir for crimes against humanity, against Africans. What did the African Union say or do to Omar Bashir? What did they do to the Arabs in Sudan because of what they did to us? So the African Union failed in Sudan. Eventually, the war that began in 1983 in south of Sudan, lasted up to the year 2005. Millions of Africans were killed, many were displaced. Go to South Sudan today, South Sudan is among the poorest nations in the world. When they got their independence in the year 2011, already the country has already been devastated by the Arabs. So the African Union failed in that Sudan. Then also came the Boko Haram war. The Boko Haram crisis began earnestly in the year 2011 in Nigeria. The Boko Haram began as a ragtag army. They were not serious. People thought they were not actually serious. Before you knew it, the Boko Haram became a very strong regional force fighting against the peace in Nigeria. They eventually spread to Cameroon, spread to Niger, and spread to Chad. Where was the African Union when all this was happening? Did you know also that as we are speaking now, that over 2,000 Boko Haram members have been released and have been assimilated into the Nigerian army? Over 2,000 Boko Haram members have been assimilated into the Nigerian army. Over 5,000 Boko Haram members have been released into the society. They are called repentant Boko Haram members. Let me ask you a question. How are we going to win the war against Boko Haram when we don't have unity? And two, when Boko Haram members are not joining the Nigerian army? Why can't the African Union come in and intervene in Nigeria and ask the president of Nigeria what he's actually doing to stop Boko Haram? Because how can you be assimilating Boko Haram into the Nigerian army and claim that you want to defeat Boko Haram? So the African Union is also failing in the area of Boko Haram. Also, let's talk about also the Libyan crisis that happened in 2011. Where was the African Union when in 26th of February 2011, resolutions were passed against Gaddafi, freezing his assets? 17th of May 2011, a no-flying zone was passed in the United Nations Security Council. Where were they when Gaddafi was removed? What about the responsibility to protect, the principle of non-indifference? What about those principles? What about the African standby force, which you talked about in the year 2002? Where is it? How could we not have protected even Libya, our own African nation? Today, Libya now belongs to the West. Gaddafi had about 143 tons of gold, 143,000 kg of gold that was supposed to use to build a currency, a gold currency for Africa. Where is the gold? Over $67 billion of Gaddafi's assets were seized by the West, frozen by the West. Today, we have not gotten them back. They're going to give those assets to those in Africa who are going to do their bidding. So this shows that we are actually failing. It's just like we don't have a union. The African Union should be the one coordinating those assets to redistribute the assets back to Libya. But actually, it's now the neo-colonialists that are holding them. Now, what also about what is going on in Nigeria? The crisis going on in Nigeria. A crisis that is even worse than that of Boko Haram. As I speak in Nigeria, thousands are being killed. They say it's Fulani herdsmen, the militia, killing thousands of people every day. Has the African Union not heard about it? The Continental Early Warning System, what is it doing? What about the Council of the Wise? Where are they? Have they not heard what is going on in Nigeria? That thousands of people are being killed every day in the country. Are they waiting for what happened in Mali to happen in Nigeria before they intervene? So even the Malian crisis, before that, what about the Cameroon crisis that began in the year 2017? What has the African Union done about it? The African Union is still practicing the doctrine of non-interference but they don't want to accept it. They say that they're practicing the doctrine of non-interference, but actually they are practicing the principle of non-interference, which they inherited from the parent organization, the OAU. So the problem of the OAU has not been fully solved. As I speak, French troops are in Cameroon. Where's the African Union troop? Where is the African Continental Army that should be the one fighting to bring peace in Cameroon? Where are they? When are we going to have an African army? Look at how many millions of persons that have been displaced in Cameroon. Some are already in Nigeria. Many of them have scattered all over Africa. And the war is still ongoing, even as I speak. What has the African Union done about it? Professor Lumumba has petitioned the African Union to intervene, to do something about it, to caution President Paul Biya. What has been done about that? Up till now, nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. Now, talk about the Mali crisis. It began since the year 2012 when the Tuaregs seized north of Mali and formed the state of Azawad. Since then, there have been crises in the country, the northern part of the country. There have been several clashes in the country.
Wait, Ezzy, I think he cut out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
Okay, I'm gonna skip to Ismaila and then Yohani. So Ismaila, and also I'm gonna try to like let's all like just because there's 6 of us, like let's try to keep our comments to 10 minutes each. But Ismaila, like, so what are your thoughts on the AU, like, and whether or not it's lived up to its responsibilities? Because what Ezzy was talking about was the AU's principle of non-interference and how that's not worked for people of Africa. So what are your thoughts on the AU and where it's at right now?
Okay, thank you so much. Basically, Pan-Africanist, I am so dissatisfied and discontent about the activities of AU in the way they carry out Africa's activities. Basically, I will start it with.
Can you hear me, brother? Can you hear me?
With the current situation that is going on.
Yeah, now we can.
That I will start with the current situation that is happening in Zimbabwe, that the white farmers have to be compensated. So basically, I see it as an insult on Africans. Why should we compensate Why should we compensate the white farmers after stealing from us for 400 years, after killing Africans for 400 years? And here today, we want to compensate them for what reason? So basically, I see it as something that is a big insult to African people. Europeans came here in the early 15th century, and they came through the Atlantic Ocean claiming to be explorers, whilst they were exploiters. And they came here, and what they do here was selective justice. So they choose Zimbabwe because they believe that during that period, they call those particular areas as settler colonies, where a large number of Europeans came from Europe to settle down permanently without the intention of going back to Europe. And basically, looking at that history, one will understand that, they have devastated so many things in those colonies. They do more harm than good in those colonies. And yet today, we want to compensate them. Instead of them compensating us for what they have done here 400 years ago. And yet today, the Europeans, they are exploiting Africans even yet today. So basically, I see it as something that is not supposed to be done. They should compensate Africans for what they did here, rather than us compensating them. And looking at AU, I see AU as a barking dog. They have been barking for far too long without acting. And for that being the case, they failed Africa as a continent. Because when the African leaders assembled...
Ismaila, I don't want to cut in on your speech, but sorry, I don't want to cut in on your speech, but we have to be very clear here. It's the leaders of Africa that are allowing this to happen still.
Sorry?
I'm just saying that what you're saying is absolutely right, 100% behind you, but it's the leaders of Africa, the current leaders and past leaders of Africa at the moment, who are still allowing this stuff to happen.
Exactly. That is still happening in Africa, Because I believe most of these leaders in Africa, the post-independent leaders and the current leaders, they are all following the footsteps of the colonial masters. So basically, we need leaders that are visionary leaders that can see the future of Africa. So looking at AU in 1960, when the African leaders assembled in Casablanca in Morocco, Kwame Nkrumah made it very clear to them that in order for Africa to be developed, in order for Africa to pave her own way, African people must be united. But at that particular point in time, most of our leaders, they are hungry for power. Everybody wants to be a ruler of their own small, tiny countries. And therefore, this was the strategy and the plan led by the West, that if we create borders in Africa, even if they regain their independence, there will not be a peace in that country, in that continent. And that is why today, still now, we have problem all over in Africa. If you go down to Mali, there's a problem in Mali. You go down to many African countries, in Sudan, there's a problem. In Somalia, there's a problem. So all this happened because of the legacy, the bad legacy that the colonial masters left behind. So what the African Union failed to do, because when you look at the aims and objective of African Union, was they want to maintain peace and security. They want to ensure that, they want to ensure that there is 100% peace and stability in Africa. And they want to remove all form of colonialism in Africa. But yet today, African leaders are sleeping, and our leaders who are representing us are still sleeping. Because every year, the West and the Chinese, they are looting from Africa. They are stealing billions of dollars from Africa. So one can understand, they are getting richer day by day. Africa is getting poorer day by day. So the question here is, what is African Union doing to remedy that situation? So basically, I see African Union, I see them as people who are hungry for power. I see them as selfish leaders. And I see them as people who don't value their people. Because after going through this colonial legacy, we have seen what happened in Africa. After experiencing all these bad things in Africa, and yet today, they can't find a possible solution on how to move Africa into one direction. 30 years ago, China was a backward country. And today, the Chinese are coming here in Africa because they know that African people are not united. And the disunity of any nation will lead to the downfall or the backward of that continent. The Chinese are coming, they are looting, they are exploiting, they are stealing from Africans. The West are also coming, stealing from Africans. When are we going to develop as Africans? And yet today we call Africa as a poor continent. Africa is a dark continent. There is nothing in Africa.
Perfect. And
so therefore,
Johannes,
we need to accountable our leaders.
Sorry, go ahead.
Therefore, we need to accountable our leaders to let them know that Africa is the most beautiful and the most richest continent on earth. And therefore, they must take the responsibility of leadership. African leaders, they must be people with self-esteem. African leaders must have self-esteem. And leadership is all about service. We need selfless leaders in Africa, selfless leaders who will serve as a pilot for the development of Africa. So therefore, I am totally dissatisfied and discontent with the activities of the AU because they are not doing anything to the expectation of the African people. So I will rest my case here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Johanny, your turn. So, because you explained what the Monrovia and the Casablanca group, but what are your thoughts on the AU, the current state of AU, and then after that, I also want to go back to Junior and Lily to talk about the AU open letter that you guys drafted. So, Johanny.
Yeah, thank you so much, my friends, my fellow Africans, Africans with the idea of uniting Africa. I think I don't want to really point out how unseen AU or Africa Union is. I don't. If I want to do that, it will take a whole day long. I definitely like look even in Ethiopia today, where the AU is standing is at. Is a mess country now. I know you guys you possibly are tracking what's going on in Ethiopia and so on. Uh, so what I want to talk about is how what can we do rather than what African Union has not done. As I mentioned before, the African Union was a creation of failed or now want United States that decided to create what is called what it looks like or what is kind of called, but it's not at all Africa Union. So the nations or the states that they want to be independent were the ones who decide to create Africa Union. And you can automatically you know what you expect from people who don't want to unite, call themselves they are united. So the first thing I want to talk about is how in what can we fix what is going on in Africa Union? Because I know that you definitely each one of you can like African Union stand by when Somalia was destroyed. African Union stand by when Rwanda genocide happened. African Union stand by in Central Africa. African Union stand by in Libya, the destruction of Libya, which is sad. African Union stand for everywhere. Sudan, someone mentioned South Sudan. African Union is just like nothing. It's just nothing. And by the way, if you want to know very clear why is operating that way, look where the money comes from. Africa Union is paying nothing for themselves. Okay, so they don't have any budget to pay their employees at all. All the money is used in Africa Union. Either it comes from United Nations, it comes from European Union, it comes from China or US or something like that. So I think I don't even think African Union should be there at all. I think African Union should not be there at all. I think they should just close the door and go home. They haven't even made a soap, or they haven't even built one single primary school in whole Africa at all. Nothing. They have done nothing from 1963. So why do you think they're gonna be able to do anything today? Nothing. I don't think we have to spend our time talking about how African Union should do or to shape African Union. I think it would be the waste of time. If you're hoping in to unite Africa, definitely don't hope in Africa Union. Okay, if you think you can do anything to change African Union, good luck. Okay, good luck. It's not gonna work. So what I think we as this generation, we need to start to put together how we can unite Africa on our own, not by the Africa Union. And I believe that we can, because what we need is not resources. We already have resources. The first resource we have is people. The second resource we have is gold and diamonds and money and so on. So we can do that. We just need to organize ourselves. So I don't have a lot to talk about African Union because I believe this next week we will have on my show, my panel discussion, we're going to have Dr. Arikana Chiwombori Cole. She's gonna be here, and I think I would definitely have to ask her why in what is she thinks she can shape or she can kind of change the African Union, which has been failed over and over again. And last time I was in Addis Ababa, it's just like another China, you know. So it's like it's replacing African Union is opening doors from Western, which has been running it forever, and now it's welcoming China. So I don't know. I don't really know you guys what you expect to do, but we can still try and see. Thank you, guys.
Okay, perfect. So, I don't know who wants to go first between Junior and Lily, but let's talk about the points that were raised that you raised in the AU open letter. Wait, hold up, I'm gonna unmute your mic. Wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say a few bits, but I'll let Lily talk after if you don't mind. Based on the back of what Ismail S.A. Yohani have just said, I think it's just Marla, myself representing Marla as well. I think it's just as clear as day that definitely the leaders who have done absolutely nothing, as it was just said, since 1963, nothing, not even a school. And I think you're absolutely right in saying that and highlighting that they are not doing anything for Africa. Don't believe what you hear when people from the West say that Africa is the most corrupt country, continent, nation on earth. They are not. They're not the most corrupt continent on earth at all. Certainly they're corrupt. They have certain leaders who are corrupt, of course. But as I said before, looking out for themselves. Now, Marla is a platform for what we're trying to launch here in terms of a letter to the African Union. But based off of what I've just heard, especially from what Yohani has just said, I think it's a pointless exercise. We'll state the points, but I wish we could start. We the people, Africans everywhere, or whatever it takes, make it a springboard for another type of union to start up and get these things done. Forget the demands to be put to the AU because after what I've just heard, it's a pointless exercise. What's the point of doing it? So yes, some of the points. I'll just read out the first 2 or 3 and let Lily go on because she's the master at this and who actually put this whole thing together. The first thing I think is very important is that something I've said before. I think Africa should be united. I know some people have said this as well. Should be united as one, a country of Africa. Get rid of this of the Berlin Treaty. Get rid of it. Get rid of all the borders in Africa and have Africa as one country. And I think some leaders in the past who have been assassinated or snuffed out or whatever, they had the right idea. And of course they were snuffed out because, if Africa as a whole, without borders, was to sneeze, the rest of the world would catch a cold, as they say. I know I've said before, and I'll say this before I just say one more thing on here. We need leaders. We need leaders who are going to stand for the people of Africa and not themselves. Outspoken people who speak up, such as, and I said, PLO Lumumba is someone to behold. Absolutely the first person I would advocate, and of course it has to be done democratically but by just putting him there, I think it will be the wrong way to do things. And I think people who listen to this guy are going to say, well, he's certainly the first person who should be advocated for the job. PLO Lumumba, Dr. Arikana, and also Paul Kagame have the right idea. The right idea.
Don't forget the president of Tanzania.
Yeah, I'm sure there are others that I don't know about, I haven't heard about. But yeah, if they're on the right footing and they know exactly what people inside or outside of Africa need, then they should be given a footing to set Africa on the right track from the beginning. One of the other things I want to say was to have African citizenship. And I think I've talked with Lily a number of times about this, and that all people of color, Black people, Africans, should have automatic African citizenship. And we've had discussions where, and it's a difficult one for me to put forward, but I'll say it, where people who are Black, people who I know, who are close to me in my family settings have said, I'm not African. My dear brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles, you are Africans. There's no two ways about it. It doesn't matter if you're mixed race. It doesn't matter if you're living in the West Indies or the Caribbean. You're African. There's no two ways about it. Last thing I'll say before I pass on to Lily, because she is the mastermind, as I said, is that I want to go and live in Africa. I want to. And I've said before that there are certain things that need to be in place, need to be happening. Number one is that then Africa needs to be free of this religion that has been indoctrinated into the continent, into the country of Africa. And I don't hesitate when I say Christianity, Islam, whatever else. I know Ismailia was talking about Boko Haram. Where did this come from? Where did it start? And you just get the whole idea that it needs to be I shouldn't say snuffed out in that way, but it needs to be forgotten in Africa. It has no bearing in Africa whatsoever. Okay, so
are you sure? That's not the war we want to fight. Yeah, religions. I think that if we want to go anywhere, we need to leave that alone. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm being honest to you guys. One is because when you touch someone's religion, they're gonna be offensive to the extent you can't believe. That's one. Number two, all religions started in Africa. So saying that yes, of course, they start in Africa, they start from us, and then they bring us another kind of diluted or mix of all those religions and bring to us. So now we start to deny our own things. So I
I think,
think that, yes,
Johanni, I think my point is that the way that they've been, the way they've developed, for example, into almost tools of mass destruction for the African mind. Yes, all the religions, yes, I've read, has started in Africa. Fantastic. But the way it's been used, starting from the Crusades back in the day, into slavery and to justify slavery, the way that they've been used to control, not all Africans, because I'm one of them that not being controlled for sure, okay, but to control the African mind and cause the death and destruction that's happening in Africa and around the world as well, being perpetrated by black people, that's what the problem is, from my perspective.
yes, I think I understand you definitely, and it's clear because honestly, none of those religions, the founders, will really do what people has been doing, especially white people, which they actually not part of these religions we talk about. They are not. They just used it. They picked that up like around maybe I don't know 4th or 7th century somewhere some area, and they start to use to kill all black people.
A
But
tool for justification.
yeah, but again, I want you guys to be very, very careful. Religions, it is something that is in people's blood. So you don't want to mess in that area. You're going to have very, very strong opposition before you even get out from your house. Okay? Yes. So just that, leave that alone.
I
Yes, I know. You're not gonna win. Special like if you go in Africa, you're trying to talk about messing with people's religion. You possibly with a Christian, you may be able to make it some few steps. But if you go with Orthodox or especially in Ethiopia, or you go with Muslim, you're not going to make a long distance. Like I'm that
I
serious. So you have to be very very careful. Actually.
I get it, and I also understand that even education, even telling people where the origins of these branches of the religion, I think we know that it won't even function for them. To be honest, yeah, I know, and I always say to people who I speak to about this, I often say that Africans were a spiritual people before they were, pushed into the and I say nonsense, but the nonsense that we see today surrounding these religions.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, move on. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Lily, why don't we go to you and to talk about since you masterminded the open letter, so why don't you talk?
Yes, first of all, like it was a cooperative situation. Yes, I've made the initial post, but all the points, they're not from me. It was a collaboration of different people and different groups. And there are a few things I wanted to say actually. And the first thing is that we have to have in mind that it is obviously by design. Okay, so a disunified Africa is easier to control and to exploit, and obviously the West, the East are supporting the situation it is now. And if I, if you look at Mali, I just before I got to the point itself, if you look at Mali, the first thing that's when the AU actually reacted. So the AU, the first thing they did or they've done was to distance themselves from the coup d'état in Mali. So I was quite surprised. No, I was actually that's not surprising, but it's like the inaction of the different things that happened, or why obviously Zimbabwe was basically at some point forced into paying this compensations, isn't it? Because they were under sanctions. So where was the AU to support Zimbabwe? Where were they? Okay, and that is, if you look at the whole picture, it's just, it's by design, and that's why. And the letter itself, I think no one. I think no one. When we've done this, no one was under the impression that they're going to say yes. Great idea. Yes, we're going to implement that all tomorrow, and everything's going to change, and Africa is going to be liberated. But the reason why it's an open letter is to show, and not only us, and we know it, we are very critical about this, but to show how that the African Union is not an institution for the interest of us and our interest. It's basically a Western institution, okay? Um, and what we're going to do is, first of all, come together and say, okay, how do we envision Africa? What kind of version of Africa do we want to see? And that's the first step, coming together and addressing the very organization that is supposed to um, realize these points, and then we take it from there. So none of us is under the impression or under the illusion that this is actually going to, that they're actually going to act on that. We- I would be surprised if we even got a response, to be honest, if I'm honest with you. Um, but I like that it's an idea that different organizations obviously come together, and we formulate the ideas and the points of what kind of Africa we want to see. What do we actually want to see? I mean, we can't just sit there and saying, okay, they're not doing anything, they're not doing anything, because it's on us to actually do and fulfill the ideas, the Pan-African vision. That's on us, because our forefathers have and fought for us so far. So it's on us to act on it now. And I think that just sitting there and doing nothing is just not good enough.
And so, what are some of the
Yeah.
the
If you
points
could forward
that
it,
are
yeah.
raised in the letter?
So it's the last three slides. And as I said, this was not my idea. Okay. There was a cooperation or collaboration of different people coming together with these points and what we want to see.
So, do you want me to pop up the?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah. Hold on. Let me pop it.
I think be slow. He read some of them, right?
Sorry.
No, that was the African Union. I'm trying to pop up the actual points. Okay, here we go, of the AU open letter. Okay,
Yes. So as I said, we
here we go.
no, further down, further down, further down, further down.
Okay.
Like the
Okay.
last slide.
There we go.
Yeah. And okay, so we first of all we said that's a letter of demand. Okay, that's what we expect to be realized, or these are the objectives of the what we want. Okay, how we see it, and I counted them. It's like 21, and the objectives of the AU they are 14. So a few more. And I think Junior has already touched on the first three. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
he did.
yeah, sorry.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Okay. So, and there are points like that the Caribbean countries are part of Africa and the islands. They also, okay. So make Caribbean part of Africa. That we have one currency. That we have no foreign military on Africa's soil. A united military force. A free trade zone. I mean, a free trade between African countries. If you could just go down, please.
Okay.
Okay, so termination of all contracts, loans, and so on and so forth that are not in Africa's interest. The fight for reparations for African Americans and African Caribbeans first, but also obviously for the exploitation of the African continent, determination of the Commonwealth relationship. Okay, it's absolutely pointless. Free Afrocentric education and in like an investment in our youth, projections of all foreign institutions, and hence ownership of all mineral African resources. All banking should return to Africa, and there has to be a transparency and full accountability of the AU and its members. Okay. We also ask for repatriation programs for people of the diaspora, for Africans of the diaspora. Obviously, want to come home. If you can go down, please, again.
Okay, let me.
And then obviously we have one official language. Also, other points were sustainable farming programs, and then all streets, monuments, and everything that are honored, are still honored, these colonial relics in Africa, that they should be removed, renamed, and so on. And we need an accountability structure for all African leaders. Okay, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, they need to go. It's as simple as it is. And just in closing, a truly decolonized Africa, and that's how we envision a truly decolonized Africa. Our ancestors, obviously, who fought for our freedoms, would approve and be proud of. Yeah, so these are the points, and I would invite everybody, anybody, to just if you had any other points, any ideas you would like to, say and have in the letter, to just write it down. We're going to pick it up and put it in this letter. So the letter is going to be an open letter saying, okay, that's what we want. You've not done anything in the last 57 years, not what we expect you to do as an African Union. What's up, there is, they have a new, as I said, I've been on their website, obviously, and they have this 2063 agenda. Okay, so meaning we have to wait another 43 years before something is going to happen, or where they say, for example, we're going to have like an African passport. Okay, so you want me to wait another 43 years before I have an African passport? We're going to make it 100 years, 100 years. So it's absolutely pathetic and ridiculous. Anyway, so for me, as I said, what I want to, these are the points we've come up with. But if you have any other points or ideas, just leave a comment and we're going to pick it up. Or if you have any organization that would like, if you're part of an organization that would also like to sign this letter. Okay, because we are different organizations coming together and going to sign this letter. So there are a few people behind this. So if you're part of an organization who would also like to sign this letter, let us know as well.
Okay, yeah, quick question on that. How how do you sign the letter? How is you sign it?
So how do we sign it or send it?
How do you sign it?
Sign. So what the idea was that we're also using the logos, okay, and of the different organizations that are part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be an idea, but obviously this is all, as I said, it's a collaboration. We're all coming together. I think that's the first step, unifying different organization with the same aim. And that's why it was very important to me that we actually include different organizations.
Okay, yeah, actually, you reminded me something. Guys, check on my YouTube channel, African United Business. There is a video of Dr. Jonas. He's asking organizations to sign the letter to the World Bank. I don't know
Okay.
if you never hear of him. He's talking about the video is on my YouTube. I downloaded yesterday. He was talking about how World Bank is the most worst black anti-black organization ever.
Right.
So yeah, he also needs some people with from organization to sign his letter as well, and that means I can send the letter to him too to sign and his other organization so we can get more signature on it.
Okay.
Right.
So we went to the points of the AU letter. Lily, do you want to talk about the importance of an Afrocentric education? Because I know that's definitely part of your lane of
Yeah,
expertise.
I'm very passionate about Afrocentric education. Which, because everything we do and everything, the first, we're going to school, and at school the system of oppression is just basically a mirror of the oppression. Okay, so if you look at I'm based in the UK as well, but I was born in Germany. Anyway, and obviously it's in Europe, yes. The curriculum is Eurocentric, and it shows obviously, and it just replicates white supremacy, let's say the idea of white supremacy on every level. And that's why we have so many issues, especially in the UK, with Black students, um, being at the bottom of the results, higher exclusion rates, and so on and so forth. So we have a real big problem in that. But when you look at the also schooling in Africa, we have there also Eurocentric education. Okay, just replicating the idea that I don't know, French and French, for example, is more important than having a united like a Swahili as of like a language, or these kind of things. So I want, I'm in the middle of changing that. So I'm starting my research, and the research is going to be about Afrocentric education, and actually developing a decolonized Afrocentric curriculum that can be used in Afrocentric schools. So we have, but I could talk forever about this topic.
Yeah, let me add
very,
some
Yeah.
points on that.
yeah,
Someone,
I'm very.
Ismail, you wanna talk?
You
Yeah,
could
go
just,
ahead, Ismail.
Yeah, I wanna talk. Basically, it is very important we talk about this Afrocentric education because after doing my analysis, I came to realize that Africa's education is trapped between the West and the Arab. Going down to the history, we all understand that the Arabs were the first who came here. And that is why at some point in time, we have this religious conflict all over in Africa. Our educational system is trapped between the Arabs and the West. So it is very important and very key. We have our Afrocentric education. If you go to other institutions all over in Africa, they are based on this Eurocentric mindset, Eurocentric superiority. So therefore, it will be very good for Africans also. We come up with our own educational system. As we are talking about the Swahili as our official language, it will be very important we start everything. We start work now. Because if not, sometimes it's so crazy, because if we are working so hard to put things together, others in the other side might find it very difficult to see what we are doing, to believe what we are doing. And that is why we have all this problem around AU, because we don't have leaders in that position. We have looters, we have thieves who are
I
who are
agree.
struggling for their own self. Who exactly. So therefore we need Afrocentric education, and that is
Yes,
my point. And just to say that
yeah.
Africa's education is trapped between the Arabs and the West.
And it's so more
Yeah,
like
thank
what you
you.
said there. I just wanted to interject there because it's important how we see ourselves. Okay, that is the important thing. That Swahili or other African our languages, they're not inferior to European languages. Ourselves, the culture, African culture, is not inferior to others. Our traditions and everything, it's not inferior, on the contrary. So that is very important, to put this into this Afrocentric education system. As I said, I can,
Exactly.
Johanna.
Okay, yeah, I think let me talk a little bit about that. I graduated from Georgetown University here in Washington, D.C. And from home, my entire life, I've been studying. I haven't come across to anything about Africa. So I start to figure out what is wrong, as he said, this young man, that our education is tracked in between Arabs and or Middle East, Middle East and what they call Middle East, which was Africa actually, and the Western. But I have to go back and see why the colonizers come to Africa and they pick our people and take them to Europe to educate them, and America as well. And then those they went to educate, they come back and to read us, and they are the most corrupted people. That includes Ethiopia too. Ethiopia sent so many experts to study outside, even whole to Russia, but they didn't do well when they came back. So I think that the idea of education as a tool to destroy Africans and the African children of Africa, it is something everyone can see. More people, more education our people are getting, it is more they are separate to the truth of Africa. Literally, like if you go even in an African Union and you see how many people are sitting there with PhDs and doctors, you will be shocked. Like literally, that's the whole problem. So I think that we have to start from the ground. I'm not saying we should like throw in the trash or education because some of the things are there, they are good. We can use them, especially those about like science or some of the things, technical things. But when it comes to history, religions, politics, the Africanism or who you are, our identity is just they destroy very, very hard. So we have to rebuild it. And finally, I want to talk about Swahili language. This is coming Saturday, which I believe is tomorrow at 6
Yeah.
p.m. in Washington, D.C. time. We're going to have a panel discussion. I have invited many doctors from all over the world who we're going to be talking about Swahili. Why is Swahili the best option to be African official language? Why not Yoruba, Mandinga, Hausa, Zulu, Kikongo, Amharic, or Oromo, or Nubia? Why Swahili? So that's the actual hot topic. You guys, if you want to join us, join us. If you want to know more about exactly Swahili and why Swahili is the best candidate on the issue of African, United States of Africa as official language or working language or official language, working language, unified language, or common language. So that's what we're gonna be talking about. And again, education. We have to invest in education. We have to keep our eyes on education fast. Okay. Last Saturday, I have this guy. His name is Young from Gambia. Osman Taule. You guys, you hear about him, right?
I haven't heard
I,
of him.
oh, you haven't?
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah. He's my friend.
Yeah, so I have him on
He's
my
my
panel
friend.
discussion.
I know
Uh,
him.
he's very, very open on that about education. So I think that this is the time we have to change this as quickly as possible, and we also have to make sure that we do it right.
Yes, absolutely. And when it comes to, the thing is, like when I said that I want to do, like I want to start a PhD, I want to do it about Afrocentric education. The and like the most backlash I got were from Africans. Okay, it's like why do you need Afrocentric education?
Mm.
Why do you need Afrocentric school? Just to see how brainwashed and how mentally enslaved we still are. Okay, so that everything Eurocentric is right and every Afrocentric is not right. So we really need the shift. Really need to shift. And when you think of liberating Africa, that is really important that we start there, actually, because if you don't see the need for liberation in the first place, and you don't understand why it is important, then then you need to then we need to rethink our systems. And when you spoke about science, that we should keep science, um like the idea again here is the where did everything start. So I think like when I think of Afrocentric education, is that everything is intertwined, and everything is basically one. And where did science start? Where did math start? Where does everything come from? And everything originated in Africa, but we don't learn that. Okay, we learn about Plato, we learn about what I mean. That's what we learn anyway. That's what we learned. But do we know where everything originated from? And for me, that alone, okay, to make the pupils understand, and then everybody understand that everything, culture, civilization started from Africa. Our knowledge now that we have now is based on African science, African culture, African spirituality, African everything. And to understand that, I think that is so important. And once we understand that. It's really, I think it will make a big, big difference in our thinking and freeing our minds. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to add, because I mentioned this on a previous stream for the RBG conference, but where I live in the Bay Area, we were successful in getting the local school board to agree to have ethnic studies in the local kindergarten to 12th grade system. So right now we're at the implementation phase. But yeah, like when it comes to, I mean, it's the same thing. Like the U.S. education system here, it's not only Eurocentric, but it's just like it's if you're trying to get like any kind of good education, it's not good. But I think having something like ethnic studies in K through 12 is a step forward. And I've been using it as an opportunity to work with local educators to actually implement some real Pan-African, Afrocentric education as part of under the larger umbrella of ethnic studies, which includes Asian studies, Native American studies, Latin American studies. So yeah, so that's something that it's something that we can all do where we're locally based. But Johanny, can I ask you like to talk more about why it's important to have an official African language, particularly Swahili, under this vision of a United States of Africa?
Sure, sure. Why not? Yeah, I think that looking from the history, from Persians, they had a language. You go to Latin as the whole kingdom of Romans, they were using Latin. So
Yeah.
anywhere they will come, they will establish the language. Once they come to the place, they will establish the language and then they will establish everything next. But the language has to come first. And as you see in English, British, anywhere they went to in India, they set up the English. When they come here to take this land from the people, the owner people, they set up again the language. And in addition to as African special, language is a key to the trade because you cannot buy from me unless you can communicate with me.
Right.
I saw this exactly like it happened to me when I was between Ethiopia and Kenya. The communication is off, okay? There is no communication between Ethiopia and Kenya. Whereas when you speak Swahili from Nairobi, you can go all the way with the bus all the way to Kinshasa, Congo. That's very, very far. And you be in a bus, there's no problem. You can live from Kenya to Bujumbura, Burundi, or you can live from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania to Juba in South Sudan. By using Swahili, you can go everywhere. But when you come from like Nairobi to Addis Ababa, or Addis Ababa to Nairobi, there is not even a bus. You have to take airplane because there is no communication. People don't speak. They can't talk to each other. So language, it is part of the trade. It is also part of knowing, feeling. The reason why we are talking, me and you, the reason why you actually feel like, hey, you know why we are same people, it is because we can talk. One day I was in India and I saw this guy, he's from Africa, I don't know where, and he could not talk in English, in French, in Spanish, in Swahili. So I knew we were connected, but I can't talk to him. Whereas I saw other Arabs and other people who speak French and English, white people, and then we start to talk. It become like we are now somehow connected. So language is the key. We will never accomplish the mission unless we actually build the language. Another example is President Nyerere. President Nyerere of Tanzania, he created a nation actually, the United States of Tanzania, which is Zanzibar and Tanganyika. He created the nation from the ground zero. And the two things he used, one was the language, and another one was to destroy or to dismantle tribes. Okay? He dismantled tribes, not to kill anyone, but he take the power away from the tribes. So the language, he say, like, you can talk your language, 224 languages in Tanzania, I believe, or more. He said you can talk your language at your home, but when you come to any government institution, you're gonna be speaking in Swahili, and that's how Tanzania has be able to keep the peace among every country around is fighting every time. But Tanzania has accomplished the idea of keeping peace and also the equality on religions. You know, Tanzania holds a lot of Muslim, possibly like 50 or 55% of Muslim people, and other Christians and other religions in Africa, in Tanzania. So I think the language it should be the first thing you do, because if we can talk, we can unite. The reason why we don't know what is going on in Mali, it is because those guys are speaking in French, and if you don't speak French, you're not gonna know what they're talking about. The reason why we don't know what is going on in Nigeria, those guys are speaking English. The English is possibly, if you don't know, you don't know it. You know, so I think that a language should be the key, and now it is possible. Back in days on Nkrumah time, it was impossible. We did not have middle ground. We did not have people who speak English to contribute to bring one or official language. We did not have people who speak Portuguese and French. But now we have all those languages. People speak Swahili and speak all those languages: English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. We have people speak those languages and speak Swahili, so they can teach in both areas. I don't know if that answers your question, my friend.
No, that did. Yeah, no, and you're right, because especially with the Roman Empire, to compare it to, like, because the Roman Empire controlled like pretty much all of Europe and a huge chunk of North Africa and the Middle East. So the Romans, like, I mean, through violence and slavery, conquered a lot of people, but they interacted with different ethnic groups who all spoke these different languages, like people in modern day Spain, the Gauls, Greeks, Arabs. But they said, like, okay, you guys are all going to speak one language, which is Latin. So like people were able to, I mean, well, not really able to. I mean, the Romans did it through conquest and violence, but the idea is like, yeah, like when you have like different groups of people who speak different languages in different parts of the world, how do you unite them? So, especially when it comes to trade, yeah, having one official language makes things a lot easier, especially when you're trying to do business or any kind of interaction with people. It helps to have a common language that everybody can speak, and you can still speak your other language, but like if we can all agree to speak like one language like Swahili, it'd be easier for all people of African descent to communicate with one another, especially.
Yeah, but I want to add something on this. The coming of Swahili does not mean we're gonna destroy other tribes' languages.
Exactly. Yeah.
We actually, as a Swahili,
No.
our existence, we have to support our indigenous languages and make sure that our people still use them, because it is our identity, and it is so important for our people to speak those Hausa, Mandinga, Kikuyu, Uganda. Those languages has to be there, but we everyone who speak them, and also Creole, English as well. Because if you born here in America, your first language is gonna be English. There is no way you're gonna change that. But you're gonna come and speak Swahili when we are on table talking about African business. And again, we're not gonna use English as our official language, because that's definitely not going to work. The French colonized, they are not gonna take it. Okay, they just gonna fight Tory and dismiss it. Number two is a colonial language. We're not trying to recolonize Africa at all. We're not gonna use Arabic too, because Arabic is a colonial language as well. A lot of people don't mention this. Arabic, it is among another colonial languages in Africa. Even though they colonize us and they conquer us a long time, but it's still a colonial language, in addition to being a religious language as well. So Swahili is the best candidate because it's not even a tribe language. So I think you guys, you know what's going on in Ethiopia. When tribes start to fight, or even in Nigeria, Yoruba and Hausa and Igbo fight about the language all the time. So Swahili is the best candidate on that.
Yeah, and that's what makes Africans different than the Europeans. The Romans were all about violence and conquest and getting rid of a lot of indigenous cultures, for the most part. Whereas, like, yeah, what we're trying to say is like people, and yeah, it is important to keep African indigenous languages, because I when I was teaching physically, now I had to teach online because of the pandemic. But when I was teaching physically, I had a student who was from Nigeria, and he told me that like a lot of young Africans don't know their indigenous language and indigenous cultures. It's being like wiped away. I was surprised. Like he was telling me, he's like, yeah, like it's. He said it's very common for a lot of young Africans to not know like their true indigenous languages. And I also play djembe, the African drum, and I mean this is sort of related language, but what I've noticed is that there are a lot of white people here in the United States and in the West who go to Africa and they learn, traditional African dances and drumming, and then they set up those businesses to teach the stuff in the West and in the United States. And as someone who's African American, that's something I take seriously because, like, I'm playing African drums to reconnect something that was stolen from my people by slavery. But to see like white people who are responsible for that oppression steal that culture and then also make money off of it, that's a huge problem. And it ties into like the need for preserving our indigenous African cultures all throughout the continent and the diaspora. Like there's even in Brazil, like there's a lot of quilombos where they preserve a lot of traditional African cultures in Brazil and other parts of Latin America. But like those kinds of efforts are under assault by the oppressors. So yeah, it's very important for us to preserve our indigenous African cultures on the continent, but also in the diaspora as well, whether you're in Europe or the United States, North America, Central America, Latin America. But anyway, that's something I wanted to add because that's something I noticed here in the States.
I gotta quickly comment because I have to go to make this money. Now, you guys, have you ever had council or meeting in person? Because I'm thinking maybe we need to have one in this year. We all meet maybe in Kenya or Nigeria or somewhere in Africa and talk our business in person.
Yeah, we have not all met in person, but hopefully when the pandemic,
we are all on different continents. But I think that that would be amazing, wouldn't it? If that was a possibility, and I think we need to speak to Daniel about that.
Also in there, we can travel and go to Africa somewhere in the middle, maybe, or maybe in Kenya or somewhere, like 100 of us. Okay. We meet there, we spend there like 2 or 3 days, and we put things to work.
In California, where I live right now, where we are experiencing these very intense wildfires and a firefighter force that's stretched thin. So I am taking Africa and reconnecting very, very seriously because I don't want to. Given where the United States is headed, like under this current president and this election, which I don't think is going to go in our favor, and where California's at, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to renew my passport. So I'm thinking about Africa very, very seriously, just in case that the United States is stuck.
Babylon is going down, eh?
Right. It's like, look, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, even to other African Americans, like, look, like, especially with Black Lives Matter, all the stuff that's going on, like, we should be reconnecting African people very, very seriously. Like, we can't just put all our eggs in this basket because, like, what if, like, look, like, I don't know where the United States is going to head in like 5 years, and it doesn't look good.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So it's like it's good to have an escape plan, like just in case the plan.
No, you live in California. I live in Washington D.C. And really like in really downtown actually. Yeah. So I see, and I'm actually afraid because I don't know. Anything can happen. No. It's just anything can happen. It is good to keep your passport with visa on if you have to get a visa. Definitely. Which I'm actually getting visa too. But again, thank you guys. I have to go to make money. If there's any question for me, I gotta go.
Okay. I don't see any questions directly for you, Yohani. But thank you so much. Yeah, if you gotta go, just go ahead, man.
Okay.
We'll continue the discussion.
So tomorrow I may see some of you on 6 p.m. in Washington DC time on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds. All right.
All right.
Take care.
Mhm.
See you, bud.
Okay, Johannes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'll just remove you. So okay. So that's the four of us. So I think Junior or Lily, did you guys want to jump in to what we were saying or?
No, sorry. If you don't mind me saying something, I was going to say.
Yeah.
But before Adam, on the back of what you're saying, where you're just talking about things that are stolen. Apart from the fact that the inventions that I don't think a lot of black people know about, that have been invented by black people, by Africans around the globe, the lists and lists of things that I've seen stolen too. And someone once, I saw something just the other week about, I think it was about, forgive me if I get this wrong, but it's about Tesla. I think Tesla or Nikolai Tesla, who created the light bulb, or someone who created the radiator, etc. We know the European name of the person who has been pushed forward, but we don't know that the actual person that is about the light, but the filament in the light bulb, and I can't remember who said it, but we just don't know about the actual person who. I think the original person created something with a bit of paper that burnt for about a split second, but the person who actually created the filament was a black person, but we don't know about that person. We see people running around now, mainly females, running around nowadays with big lips. How black people were crucified in the past for having big lips and stuff. I myself, when growing up, I was indoctrinated too, because I used to say, "Look at your big lips, man," and all this kind of stuff. And people used to cuss each other and stuff. People with women, men, boys with big backsides. They're thinking, "Look, size of your backside, man. You've got a big ass," and all that kind of stuff. But now we've got people running around from all corners of the earth who want to, disfigure themselves in an attempt to be just like us. The last thing we have left are our features. What about melanin, the pigment in our skin? So many people around the world want to be brown. So everything, the last things we have, the last vestiges we have, and now, we've got nothing else to give, So that's just on the back of what you said, though. Anything and everything that's created or comes out of Africa is from on the back of Africans.
And that's why we need Afrocentric education, okay? It's one thing how the world sees us, who cares? It's more important how we see ourselves. And if we know, oh wow, like look at all the inventions that are actually been stolen from us, okay? That's, it's so much from the super soaker, okay? Things like the super soaker, potato chips, I don't know, the traffic light, the three-way system, all black inventions. There's so many black inventions. We don't know this unless you research. You don't know it, and that's why Afrocentric education is so important. Just wanted to say that because I'm very passionate about it. Sorry.
Yeah, Ismaila, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I want to say something concerning about what Baycloud said about African people. Basically, in this 21st century, I believe that this will be a period of enlightenment of African people. This will be a period in which African people will revolt against the bad things that happened to them 400 years ago.
Yeah.
But yet still we find it in every part of Africa that women and men, they are all bleaching their skins because they don't feel so comfortable of who they are as African people, as black people. Everybody wanna turn to be brown or white, because this was the mentality and the philosophy the Europeans have 400 years ago. When the French, they arrived in the coast of Africa, especially in Senegal, in Dakar, the first Portuguese who arrived in the coast of Senegal by the name Denis Diaz. This was the mentality they have that they inculcate in the minds of African people, especially their colonies, because they want to make Africans to think and behave like them. That is why you have assimilation, a system that was introduced by the French. They want to make Africa think and behave like a Frenchman in France. They want Africans to denounce their beautiful culture and civilization. And that is why today we are finding it so difficult to decolonize that mindset. And yet today, majority of the populace of Africans are illiterate.
and they find it so difficult to listen to to listen to a man with a word. Africans don't believe with a man with a word. They always believe, with a man who will come through bandwagonism and euphoria, through ambience. And that is why today in Africa, it is so sad that most people who have the brain, the idea of how to make Africa a peaceful and the most beautiful continent on earth, they are never elected into office.
Yeah, but
We
that's
have
but
seen this
because it is by design. It is by design. It's like, because the moment we have these strong leaders, what's going to happen if we charge fair prices, for gold and from bananas to gold to everything. What happens then if we produce our own chocolate? What happens? What happens to the West? What happens to the East? It's all by design, and that's why we need people in charge with a backbone who are not going to back down, because it's ridiculous. And this idea to be as white as possible, because this idea of white supremacy, that of white is right, and the lighter you are, the closer proximity to this whiteness, the social construct of whiteness, that makes you more beautiful or smarter, or what I mean, whatever. And that's why, again, we need to understand and decolonize our minds and saying, okay, the way our hair is, from our hair to our features, as you said before, it has nothing to do with the Europeans. Like, we are as great as we are as people, okay? And we don't need to look up to this fake idea of this white supremacy, these white supremacist ideas. And I think it's so important, as you said, the skin bleaching, the self-hate, that you actually, bleach your skin, and also, like, all of these kind of things. And when it comes to hair, that you burn your curls down, you do all these kind of stuff because you want to have this, long straight hair, and all these kind of things. And yeah, we need to change about.
I want to share. Hold on, because as we're talking about, so I don't know if you guys have heard this term. It's called blackfishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is. Hold on. Let me.
Yeah.
I want to bring up this article because I think it ties into everything we're talking about. Where is
Yeah,
it?
I mean, blackfishing.
I'm trying to find it. Where is
blackfishing, cultural appropriation? It's I don't know, it's so problematic. Because we only value us when the other does it, and that's very, very problematic for me. And we have instances where kids are thrown out of school because they wear their hair in its natural state, okay? And then we have people that are not black, that don't have afro hair, getting away with it, being praised by embracing African or black culture, and this is ridiculous.
Yeah, so there's this article called "White Instagram Influencers Have Created a New Form of Blackface," and so here's this picture. So this is Mika Francis. This is who she looks like for real on the left, and then on the right, like you can see, like she's trying to look more ethnic or more black. So yeah, this is and so some of them have been called out for it. There's some others, but it's weird that like the term blackfishing is just like, that's just minstrelsy right there. That's just another form of minstrelsy and blackfacing. Like it's weird that like sometimes we come up with these new terms to describe things.
Euphemism, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a euphemism. It's like, no, this is like that's just minstrelsy right there. But like there is another Polish. No, she was Swedish, and if you look at her Instagram feed, she looks black. But some people dug up an old picture of her. It's like, no, you're white, and she's Swedish, and she identifies as white. Yeah, it's weird that like, well, it's not. I mean, it's not weird. It's something that's been going on for a long time, that black culture is always mimicked, but not in a form of respect. It's like, let's just copying everything, all the trappings of our culture, but erase black people. I mean, it was done with you know, music, because I'm a musician, so it's something I care about. But like, I mean, the whole history of American music has just been like black people creating music, but then white people finding ways to profit from it and make money. Like that's just basically the music industry. I was talking with my uncle, who's a musician. Well, he was a musician. He's kind of retired at this point, but he was a freelance musician, and like I have a family history of musicians and stuff, and so uh, I was talking to my uncle, and there was a drummer, an African American drummer he knew who was really close friends with, named Wilson Owens, who played in a lot of rock bands. And the whole history of rock and roll has like been whitewashed because rock and roll really started with black people. Rosetta Tharpe, Howlin' Wolf, Little Richard. Little Richard was very important. Chuck Berry and all them. And I was talking with him, and he was saying, he's telling me, he's like, you know, as a drummer, like you should be learning more blues and jazz, because he said blues and jazz, he said that's like the mother and the father, and then R&B and rock is like the son and the daughter. And so I was thinking like, okay, so that means rap music is like the grandson, but then also if you trace back the lineage of blues music, it goes back to West Africa. So West Africa, I think, is like that's like the ancestor. Then blues and jazz are like the mother and the father. R&B rock is like the son and the daughter, and rap is like the there's a whole lineage. Like when you really, it's like, yeah, the traditional African music, that's like the great ancestor, but like the stuff that we know of now, like blues, jazz, even a lot of Latin music is heavily African influence, especially Latin music with the rhythms and the drums. Like that's all. The Spanish did not create that. Like they didn't contribute anything to that. That was all African people throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. But the history of it is very whitewashed. So, well, when people talk about the history of like this music, it's the black influence is well, I mean, for the most part, it's erased. But I think since this second wave of Black Lives Matter protests, it's been forcing people to have these discussions more. But even white musicians I know, like if I was to tell them and stuff, they would agree because they know it. Because they know like a lot of those British rock bands, like they're all trying to mimic Little Richard and Chuck Berry and all them. But who made the most money? You know what I mean? Like Beatles, Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
Rolling Stone, they made more money, but do people know about Little Richard, or was it a Tharpe, or Howlin' Wolf, Robert Johnson, who like rock music wouldn't exist without those people, because all those British guys were literally trying to copy what they were doing, and then they just wound up making money. And like but yeah, that's another reason why I think like decolonizing education is important, because we need to know our own true history, because I know a lot of black students who don't even know, like, I mean, slavery's barely taught here. I mean, we don't get anything about Africa, but like slavery, like some of the basic stuff about slavery, like is not even taught in the K through 12 system here in the United States, which slavery built this country, and most students aren't even taught like the basics of slavery, which is just like, I mean, it's maddening, right? I mean, I'm kind
because
of rambling,
the people who create the systems, they don't care. And
exactly.
They probably don't want
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
youth and the
Exactly.
people
Exactly.
you know who are coming through to understand it.
Yeah. I mean, it's I was reading this article, and one reason why is because what in a lot of districts where there's a lot of white students and white teachers, white students get offended when slavery is brought up. So and there's a lot of pushback. Yeah, there's an NPR, or I can pull it up, but let me find it. It'll actually be very
And
relevant to what we're talking about. Hard history, slavery. Okay, yeah. This actually ties into the discussion about education we're talking about. But this is the U.S. context, but like it can still be applied. So slavery. Okay, yeah, it says right here. So the problem, according to the report, is not that slavery is ignored in the classroom or that teachers like their students don't understand its importance. Many clearly do. The problem is deeper than that. This is from teachers, actually. So Although I teach it through the lens of injustice, just the fact that it was widely accepted practice in our nation seems to give the concept of inferiority more weight in some students' eyes. Like, if it happened, then it must be true. Sometimes it gives students the idea to call black students slaves or tell them to go work in the field because of the lack of representation in textbooks. So when students see themselves or their black classmates only represented as slaves in textbooks, that affects their sense of self and how other students view them. And then this is from a teacher in Maine, which is super white. I find it painful and embarrassing as a white male to teach about the history of exploitation, abuse, discrimination, and outrageous crimes committed against African Americans and other minorities over many centuries, especially at the hands of white males. I also find it very difficult to convey the concept of white privilege to my white students. While some are beginning to understand this important concept, many struggle with or actively resist it. He also said, this is another teacher. When you bring up racism, kids start getting really defensive, thinking that they're to blame. To feel comfortable, you need to have a really good classroom climate where students feel that they're not being blamed for what happened in the American past, where they don't feel shame about it. It is 100% not their fault that there's racism in this country. It will be their fault if they don't do anything about it in the next 20 years. So yeah, like that's part of it is
Because
that
they'll profit from it.
yeah, and it makes people uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about, like, once you start digging into the real history of slavery and how brutal it was, people don't want to talk about it. It makes people
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, not agree, but if you only teach about slavery, then of course, there will be an inferiority complex. Okay, if you only say, okay, that's happened, but if you don't talk about the
yeah.
rebellions, if you don't talk about the cultures that were the civilization before, if you don't talk about the greatness of Black and African culture, then obviously, this is very problematic, and that is the very one-sided way of teaching slavery in our schools. We have that, and that is very wrong. So it needs to be, there are so many initiatives to decolonize education, and at least Black history, or teach Black history in schools, and actually, also teach about the contributions of Black people in society, because we don't learn about it, as I think as Junior said before.
What
Yeah.
Are
bothers
they
me?
actually?
What bothers me? I'm sorry to cut
I
in,
think
Lillian. But what bothers me, there are people like you, me, Adam, Ismaila, Esse, Yohani, who come on here and say all this stuff. Why are the leaders in Africa not saying these same things? Why are they not spearheading these type of initiatives to get people to understand and to to give them a path, to give them opportunities to understand and do something about. Actually, do you know what? I've just kind of answered my question. I know the answer. It's because they're in power and they don't want to give it. Sorry, my bad.
anyway, anyway, I myself, I was a victim of this slavery issue, because there was a time last semester at the University of the Gambia. I was having history with one of my lecturer who was a white man, and when we went up to an extent that we reached a slavery period topic, and at the end he wanna skip the topic because he don't want to speak about slavery. I told him, why not we speak about slavery, because we have to know the hard fact about slavery. And he told me, no, we are not going to speak about slavery because this is not important. I told him, this is important to us as Africans. We need to know the history, and we need to know the real fact, what happened in Africa. And at the end, he ended up sending me out of the classroom because he was not interested of what I'm saying. So basically,
Wow.
white people at some point in time, they feel uncomfortable when we speak about slavery. And this is the hard fact. Africans people must know their origin. They must know their history. And this is what Marcus Garvey said. He said people who don't know the history of their origin is like a tree without any roots.
Yeah.
So basically, African people, we must know our origin, and we must know slavery. And we must know the hard fact about slavery. Because that is the only way in which we can be able to know our problems, find solution to it. But African leaders will never speak about this. And that is why I told you. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna ask. Sorry to cut you off, but I was wondering. Are there, like, in Africa, like, well, because you're in Gambia, like, are are there a lot of white teachers teaching African students in Africa, like, or is it mostly black teachers, or how does it work? So I'm curious.
Now we have like minority white people, white teachers teaching in the schools in my country, in the Gambia.
Oh, so it's a lot?
But yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
most of the teachers in the university, most of the teachers in the high schools, you know, they are Africans. Most of them are
Okay.
Africans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we have only few white teachers in our schools and universities. They are not much.
Oh, okay. So it's not much. Okay. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure. But is the curriculum like is the curriculum Afrocentric or in Gambia? Like, do you have like an Afrocentric curriculum in education system, or is it more like westernized?
Yeah, it's more of like westernized. So
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, and that is what we need to do as Africans. We need Afrocentric education
Mm.
from the grassroots level. That is where everything so started.
Mm.
And the problem in
Wow.
Africa here, the more we are getting educated, and that is the more we are getting corrupted.
Mm.
And that is the more we are running away from reality, from the truth.
Wow. Damn. That's
why
man,
that's why that yeah, that's why many leaders in Africa are corrupted. They know the reality, they know the truth, but they don't want to accept it and face it. So that is why, you know, basically they don't want to accept the blame, but they know the truth about Africa. They know the problem about Africa. But just because they are corrupted, and it's like most African people, you know, ruling their people, they see it as an entitlement to rule over their people for life. And that is why we have most of these African countries facing coup d'etats and, you know, other things going on in Africa. But it is very clear to us that African Union have failed us. Hopefully, they have failed us. So the new crop of Africans who are imagining should not depend on African Union.
Agreed.
They are hopeless.
Yeah. So I guess let's get close to wrapping this up. So I'll ask.
Yeah. I wanted to ask if there were any questions actually from anybody or
let's see. So someone did. Okay, I want to bring this up. Let me stop sharing this. Oh, oops! I'm sorry. I'm blocking the link.
It's fine. It's fine.
I want to read what Bola said. We have only just stopped paying slave owner reparations from in the UK from our taxes in 2015, which most of us were completely unaware of until recently. So our hard-earned money has helped to pay slave owners compensation for ending the slave trade. Then now we are paying compensation in the continent. It makes no sense. And then someone, I think,
absolutely.
Jeff says, when are we going to believe in each other's Africans' existence? We are one black people. Do we need another race to come and tell us who we are? Let's embrace the black race. We are who we are. We will never be any other race. So, yeah, that ties into, like, I'll just combine these questions into one. But, what are the next steps, and how do we, unite all people of African descent globally, both on the continent, in the diaspora, and when I say diaspora, I also include those of us, including myself, who are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade brought here to the West. I think that like, we can talk about that and then wrap up. I think that'll be a good way to wrap up. So yeah, next steps and then how to unite and even responding to Bola's comment about the reparations, because here in the U.S. I wasn't really fully aware of like that kind of. I mean, because I know like here in the U.S. reparations were paid to former slave owners, so I didn't know that was same was done in the U.K. But that's how oppressors work. They wind up sharing notes and do the same thing. So
For me, I know whenever I speak, it seems like I'm being really cutthroat, and I'm just like straight to the point, and I don't give a damn. Well, the truth is, I am cutthroat. I'm straight to the point, and I don't give a damn, because I think that African leaders currently have been doing this long enough. The African Union has been around long enough, and not a damn thing has been done. So ultimately, I think that people have to. It's going to take a while, but hopefully not too long. That people are going to have to be educated in the here and now as to what needs to be done, as to realizing what's happened in the past, what's happening now, and what we potentially could do as Black people, as Africans, wherever you are, for Africa. Because no one else, and I've said this before, but Black people have no friends around the world. We don't. So not everybody, unfortunately, not everybody is on board. Unfortunately, you have people like, Mugabe, and I know a lot of people don't agree with me when I mention Gaddafi, because he was an Arab. But for what he was potentially putting forward, we know people like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Nkrumah. We know these people had the right idea. I even hasten to say Idi Amin. They had the right idea about what to do and how to do it. But in lots of ways, not some ways, lots of ways, they were snuffed out. I'm hoping that whatever happens, if people do start speaking up, it's not going to be a case of the people against the bullets or the guns or the tanks, etc. Because it's now time for people to now get educated. You've got technology at your fingertips. You've got technology all around you on your phones, PCs, whatever. You need to get on there and really realize what the potential is. Whether you join a group or an organization or social media, you have to now start collating and getting together and working as one. Just as Ismail was saying, you need to start working as one people and put this whole movement, get this whole movement gathering momentum and moving forward, because we can't carry on like this forever and ever. The people who are in power, it's not a case of now, getting them, in the know and understanding what the people want now. It's a case of getting them people out, because they've had long enough and they've known what's going on. It's time to move them out and get people in who can, speak for the people, who are young enough and savvy enough to be able to relate to the people that they're going to be representing, and get these people in and get Africa sorted out. Get rid of the borders. It was a European idea. It was put together. We know what the reasons were, to continue to rape and pillage and steal from Africa and Africans. Get rid of them. Get people in power, as I said before. PLO Lumumba, Paul Kagame, Arikana Kwayo. Get people like that to rule over Africa as a country, as a continent, a country, whichever way you say it. But time's up now. We've got to stop this nonsense stuff through education and working together as one people. That's the only way this is going to get done.
Lily?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Just sitting there complaining doesn't help, and saying, oh, yeah, you need to get started yourself, join an organization, or start an organization if there's no one around you. Do what you can, if you join this organization, or when, you need to put your money where your mouth is, okay? You need to support the organizations. You need to, each one teach one, okay? It will be a collective effort. And as I said, join an organization, we also, obviously, as I said, education is the key, Afrocentric education. And then I think that's how it's supposed to be, and support, obviously, the ones that are actually also doing something already.
Bismillah?
Thank you so much. I would like to say that all African people need to come together as one people, one family, to fight for a common cause. Because I believe Europe and America is nothing without Africa. They are all built on the backbone of Africa, and therefore African people must recalculate and redefine their way of life. African people must come together as one people
and we stand for the reality. We know the problem of Africa. And the solution now and the only thing we can do now is to be united. This is what our leaders have been advocating long before. And this was what a great South African by the name Pisley Kaisa Kaseme in the year 1906 went down to the United States of America, and he told the Afro-Africans about the regeneration of Africa, that African people must come together, they must be united. Pisley Kaisa Kaseme from South Africa in the year 1906 spoke about Africa's unity. Kwame Nkrumah from Ghana in the year 1957, 1960 in Casablanca in Morocco, in 1963 in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia spoke about Africa's unity. Leopold Sédar Senghor from Senegal also talked about Africa's unity in his poetry. He reaffirmed Africa's tradition and the need for Africa to be separated from the West. Our leaders have been advocating for Africa's unity long 400 years ago, and it is time for us to believe their words, to believe in their visions, and to take an action. Because as I said, if Africa is not united, there will be no peace in Africa. If Africa is not united, we are going nowhere. Therefore, I advocate all African people, especially the young people, let's stay in Africa and make Africa great. Let's stay in Africa and know that the success and the failure of the continent lies in our hand. Nobody will come and develop Africa for us. The only thing they can do is to come and exploit us.
That's right.
And that exploitation has to be stopped. If we don't stop it, history will never forgive us. And if we don't stop it, our next generations, they will never forgive us. Our sons and daughters will never forgive us. Therefore, I call on everybody, both in the diaspora and in Africa, to see each other as one people without the borderlines, without being Anglophone or Francophone. Let's see each other as one African, one people. And we shall finally call to what we are all yearning for. We shall finally reach to our destination. So thank you so much.
And that's I think that's a great way to end. I'm gonna wrap up there, and then yeah. So thank you so much, Junior, Smela, Lily. I'm Adam Hudson. I'll just do a plug in my podcast, Real Sankara Hours, SoundCloud.com/Real Sankara Hours. We named it after Thomas Sankara. So yeah, a great leader who is like
That's
I mean
great.
probably I think one of the greatest African leaders who ever lived, next to many
one
others.
of the best African,
who sadly was taken away, betrayed by a close friend, by the way, one of his friends, Blaise Compaoré. So who was, I think, working in league with the French. So and also, okay, so Prescott Smith asks, okay, if you want to be a guest of this show, my best advice would just be to message the United States of Africa or GPAN USA Facebook pages, and then we can get you on. But yeah, like we're all members are connected to GPAN, so that's how we got on. But yeah, if you just want to be a guest, just I think the best way just send a message to the United States of Africa Facebook page, and then someone will answer. But anyway, thank you so much, and take care, everyone. Stay safe, and keep the faith. Power to the people.
Thanks, Adam.
All right. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.